Over the last few years, Solv has selected 165 solver teams from over 43 countries. We saw early on that you could be a solver at any age. Our youngest solver was 13 when she was selected. And as part of MIT, I'm also constantly reminded of the genius and power of young people. Gen Z is especially driven to want to lead lives of purpose and build a better future for all, one that is more just, equitable, and sustainable. With this in mind, Solv has spent the last year consulting on and designing a new program for young people aged 24 and under. So today, I'm really excited to launch Solved. Young people hold the empathy, power, and ingenuity to solve world problems. We want to help them on their journey. Solved is designed to spark a sense of agency in young people, encouraging, inspiring, and supporting them to become problem solvers in their community and the world. But we can't do this alone. That is why we're bringing together a community of youth organizations, education providers, and other cross-sector leaders to ignite the next generation of innovators. I want to thank our anchor funder for Solved, Carrie Morgridge and the Morgridge Family Foundation, who are long-time supporters of Solv, as well as the Richelle Foundation and the Posen Social Innovation Prize, who all committed initial funding to the program. We're also launching this exciting program with our inaugural Solved members, other universities and youth-serving organizations from all around the world. Thank you. If you are interested in joining us as a Solved participant, a mentor, a funder, or Solved member, please do not hesitate to get in touch with my team or through the Solv website. For those of you in Hopin, you will also be able to join the Solved community session tomorrow from 1 to 2:15 p.m. Eastern Time. And the best way to showcase the power and genius of youth is through these next two speakers. Gitanjali Rao is a student and a 3-times inventor who used MIT App Inventor to help bring her ideas to life. At now 16 years old, she was recently selected as Time's first ever Kid of the Year. She will be joined in conversation by Emma Yang, who at 13 was selected as a 2017 Brain Health Challenge solver. Emma is now an incoming college freshman and a founder of Timeless, a facial recognition app she has built to help her own grandmother recognize and connect with loved ones while battling Alzheimer's disease. Trust me when I tell you, these two will be running the world someday soon. Following their conversation, we will be joined again by President Reif to introduce our next panel with will.i.am and long-term Solv advisor Villa Starr, President and Trustee of the Patrick J. McGovern Foundation. We are so excited for these two panels, and I'm sure you are too. So let's get started with Gitanjali and Emma.
Hi, everyone. Hello, Solv at MIT. My name is Emma Yang. I'm an MIT solver and the founder of Timeless, a startup that helps to empower Alzheimer's patients, their families, friends, and caregivers using artificial intelligence-based facial recognition technology and to help them with the daily challenges of the disease. I'm so excited to be here today talking to Gitanjali Rao. Gitanjali, as a fellow innovator, a young innovator, and inventor, I'm a huge fan of your work, so very excited for this. So since this is Solv at MIT and Solv is all about problem-solving technology, I thought I'd start out by asking what drove you to solve the problems that you've been addressing through technological innovation and technology instead of by any other means? And how can we convince other kids our age to turn to science and technology to tackle our most pressing problems?
Yeah, and I guess to kind of answer that two-part question, I'll kind of put out a two-part answer here. But to essentially address this first part, I think the biggest thing is access and knowledge to technology is limited for students, right? For us. And while there are other means to solve this with the talent that we have, science and tech is almost like reading and writing in today's day and age for tomorrow's solutions. And I think we just need to take advantage of that. So just based on those ideas, I naturally got inclined with the vast amount of resources that we have through, just the internet and through remote learning and through virtual resources, because that's where I saw the most opportunity to grow and learn as an innovator. And to essentially address that second part, the best way to convince other students or other kids our age to turn to science and tech is definitely to start slow, right? Provide them with a process that they can refer to and share role models like you, of course, who have done something similar. Because I think it's important to address that every problem doesn't need to be big and every solution doesn't need recognition to make a difference. We need to start normalizing the importance of small innovations to solve small problems as well. Challenges such as MIT Solve can obviously be such a huge motivating factor to start and take that first step. And I'm doing my small part by conducting innovation workshops all over the globe where I have students come up with a small idea and try to take it to a solution that they're comfortable with building further. And I think that's just the little bit of inspiration and drive that any sort of student needs.
Yeah, and that really resonates with me. I think, when I first started coding, I was, about 6 years old, and I started with Scratch, and you and I have been fortunate, we grew up in a world where we have the internet running and we have things like, tools are online, books, websites that really teach us how to code. I started, with just games, animations that grew into a tool that, I could use to help my grandmother. And now, expanding that to an issue that really impacts millions of people around the world and helping families like mine. And so, really love to hear that. In your life so far, you've built tech-based solutions around opioid addiction, unsafe drinking water, and cyberbullying. In a world faced with so many challenges, how do you think aspiring young entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in general should go about identifying the ones that they want to address and solve?
Yeah, I love that question. I think the first thing to really address that is by identifying that there are problems out there, right? We're growing up in this place where we're seeing problems that have never been seen before. And some of these problems still exist, like human rights and, access to education and natural resources, as well as quite literally, we're all sitting at home in the middle of a pandemic right now. And aspiring entrepreneurs should really consider almost this aspect of empathy and kindness, as well as community awareness as their central theme to kind of invest in a solution. I guess with my work, the biggest thing that has really come out of it is this idea that my work is driven by my motivation to quite literally put a smile on someone's face. Whether my work is big or small, the end goal is to help someone out there in the world around us. And sometimes it's easy to get stuck in abstract terminologies and process definitions. But I think at any given point in time, we need to take a step back and realize, why are we doing this? And the reason for this is kindness. Innovation is using science and technology for kindness. And that's how I've continued to look at it. And we all want to grow up in a world where kindness prevails. And if each and every one of us can make that step to impact one other person, there's obviously going to be a cascading impact or a ripple effect on the problems that we can solve in our community.
Yeah, and do you think that, being a young entrepreneur and a young innovator has kind of influenced that lens of kind of kindness and an optimistic view of how we can use technology?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the ability to take risks and then time in our hands to fail and learn is actually probably our biggest asset more than anything, right? I like to say that I am doing what I'm doing because of my age, because we're not yet boxed, right? We're not boxed in this way to follow a certain method or a certain way to innovate or to essentially apply for a job where I have to do only this. We're allowed to basically think beyond what we think the box is and also just create an environment for us where our creativity thrives. And along with this, we have, older peers and stuff who can have the experience to guide and mentor us across the way. And those are some of the people that I'm most thankful for and who have been most valuable in my journey as well. And apart from that, today, several professors and experts are ready to guide students. And we have programs in place where universities are actually opening up their research facilities for even little things like high school internships or even middle school internships sometimes. And really taking advantage of that younger age group is something that we're seeing more and more often and something that I will continue to vouch for because I think that is so incredibly important.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think, as a young founder myself, I really saw how I think fundraising is something that, it's a huge issue. It's a huge part of every entrepreneur's journey. And I think for me, it was especially true because, it's one thing to be, young and saying you have an idea and you want to create this or that. It's another to go up to VCs or pitch competitions and say, well, here's my idea. Will you give me money to start doing this? And so I think, definitely kind of in that aspect, I think, there is a sense of, a less in fear of failure and a willing to take on challenges that young people really have. And that's something that, I'm really excited to see that you are also, taking advantage of that. So today, Solv is launching a program for youth innovators, Solv Ed. The program will be giving young people the opportunity to learn about and practice skills for social entrepreneurship. And I'm especially excited about the ways that it'll do this while bringing young people from all around the world together. So what do we talked a little about, optimism, a lesson fear of failure, but, what advantages do young innovators have over their older peers, do you think?
Ooh, good question. And it almost resonates with that same idea, right? Over our older peers, one of the biggest things that we have is our opportunity to be able to kind of mesh in with their interests. It's almost like contrasting ideas, but also similar ideas. We're willing to think big and we're willing to dream big and then think back to reality. When people ask me what's the biggest piece of advice, it's dream big and then think back to reality. And the reason I say that is because we're kids and we're allowed to dream big and we have the time to make those dreams into reality.
Yeah, and what ways would you be excited to learn from young entrepreneurs living and working in other countries?
Yeah, so I can even share a story here. So recently I conducted a workshop for students in the Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya, which was absolutely incredible. And those students actually walked about 45 minutes just to attend it, right? I take internet access for granted, and I was kind of amazed by their zeal to learn with the latest resources in front of them. And another example was when I conducted a workshop for a girls' school in Afghanistan, and they had security concerns on what they're allowed to do and what they can't. And I have so many more stories like this for students in other West African countries and places in Asia as well. And it was just so eye-opening, right? That they were motivated to be entrepreneurs and innovators in spite of all the constraints in front of them. And the biggest lesson learned is that a lot of us are privileged and not all of them are. So the more that we can do to offer and share our resources and knowledge, the better. So that's what really just what I've learned from my peers around me, and especially the people that I work with, is collaboration is the best thing driving our future. And we should continue to do so. We should continue to make an impact and really emphasize the idea that age, race, and gender doesn't have anything to do with who's an innovator, who's an entrepreneur, because right now we need to maximize innovation and creativity.
That's amazing, and absolutely. The United Nations World Report, Youth Report, estimates that we'll need to create 600 million new jobs in the next 15 years to meet youth employment needs. This is an urgent global challenge, and youth entrepreneurship could offer a much-needed solution. Providing opportunities for our peers, for people that we see are underserved or in need of support. So, first, what barriers to innovation need to be dismantled in order to expand opportunity to young entrepreneurs everywhere, in your opinion?
Oh, I bet I could list quite a few here, but one is definitely inequality in education. Internet access and resources availability are absolutely the first thing to solve before we move ahead any further. Apart from that, something as simple as access to the internet, safety and security is the right of every individual, just like the right to have access to clean drinking water or clean air. And I think those are the first few things that we need to absolutely kind of break down. It's this idea that we need to bring in more opportunities for everyone across the world. And in order to do that, we need to take advantage of the resources that we have and be generous to provide that to others.
Absolutely. And I think, access to technology is something that, we in the United States and as people who are, working in the tech sector are really taking for granted, as you said. And, I think that, we think of tech as being so ubiquitous, there's that, there's an app for that, kind of culture. And I think, I saw that, on the other end of the spectrum, working with the Alzheimer's population and realizing that Alzheimer's and really the elderly in general are very underserved by technology. We want to build things like the next Uber, the next Facebook, the next Instagram, things that are meant for young people who are already involved in technology. But there are a lot of, blind spots in technology, places that we're not looking yet and places that, young people perhaps, can see these blind spots more clearly and to help to solve for them.
Quite a few, actually. I was having like a conversation recently as well. And a lot of what I was hearing was this idea that, Gen Z are definitely more out of touch with science and technology because they're always on screens. And I feel like, that's one perspective, but there's so many, I totally agree regarding blind spots in age groups, blind spots in, just this world of what technology can be used for. We've all decided on like something as cool as, beveled edges or Bluetooth technology. And that's cool and all, but we need to focus on coming up with bigger solutions to solve bigger problems.
Absolutely. And, that point about, being on the screens all the time and, getting, all your information through there. I think, there's also, and you were talking about education about tech, also the awareness of, the way machine learning and AI is impacting the way that young people learn, how we are scrolling through Facebook and Instagram and we're seeing these, information that we're believing to be true and are really resonating with our own views when that really could be, tailored to us. And we're not really aware of that. I think, that's another way that, access to technology and access to education about technology is really coming into play. So what types of support do you think young entrepreneurs need to most thrive?
Right. And I think the biggest thing is guidance from experts, right? Role models who have quite literally done it before, and universities and organizations who are ready to come in with basically arms wide open and greet you, and who are ready to open their doors for that curiosity and creativity to thrive, almost for them to be able to do that for us. I like to say I am who I am because of my mentors and my role models who have supported me, as well as those organizations and universities who have opened up their labs for me, even if it was like a tour of the lab or to get a feel of what opportunities are for the future. I was actually fortunate enough to get to go tour the Department of Chemistry lab at MIT and still have, the vision of all the resources available there and the potential as well. I guess, just labs in general, I'd never been able to kind of go in and experience it actually until I was at the University of Colorado, Denver, and I've conducted research there since I was about 12 years old and did a lot of research at Denver Water's water quality lab when I was 11. And I guess I hope for that one day where every youth out there has that opportunity, right? I think everybody would really be able to take advantage of that growth mindset, continue going forward with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I've also done some, research, with more, I started off with, from more app development, looking at, timeless and trying to develop that perspective. And now going into kind of the research world and seeing how, the kind of the back end of science, the academia, the researchers are really driving that kind of stuff. I think, it's been great that, as young people, we've both had the opportunity to see, both sides of the curtain. And I'm really excited to see how Solv can really be bringing out the social innovation side. Well, thank you so much, Gitanjali, for having this conversation with us. This has been really great and really inspiring to hear your work.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
Yeah. Thank you so much.